Next Reddit target, so we want to go to Mike Coe, because Mike, you spotted some pretty unusual options activity in that name today. Mike, what'd you see?
Yeah, first of all, I'm big fans of Justin and his co-founder, Greg. I know both those guys, very smart guys, and they're doing some really smart things that I think people should be paying attention to. And actually, one of the things he said was that there's actually been sort of a buildup in the chatter, and he didn't really indicate that that happened today, but that it has been going on. And that's actually what we've been seeing in Palantir. Today, that traded about 610,000 contracts overall. Calls outpaced puts by about 3-to-1, and the most active options were the 26 strike calls that expire at the end of this week. And this is a pattern that we've seen many times in these cases, that people are trading very short-dated upside in a lot of these names. As Justin was mentioning, most of the people who are doing this are making bullish bets, not bearish ones. And this is a stock that obviously had a big run-up, fell back fairly shortly thereafter, and we are starting to see a buildup of bullish activity on the short-dated call side. This one again.
Yeah, so Guy, I'll go to you on this one because you've been watching Palantir. I mean, you piece this all together, and what does this give you, if anything?
An opportunity. I mean, I hate using the word opportunity, I really do, but I think that's what this is, in fact. I mean, this 23.5 level that Karen cited earlier in the show, that's been support. Obviously had this big pullback, but if you look, Goldman Sachs upgraded the stock in mid-February, I think a $34 price target. Kathy Wood obviously has been speaking about this. They just signed a deal with 3M, Palantir. And oh, by the way, I think they're going to be able to scale down some of their business offerings to these MSBs, these mid-sized businesses, which I think makes the stock really attractive. So I can't speak exactly why you've had this precipitous sell-off, but I'll tell you, in terms of trading the stock, I think risk-reward at 23.5 sits up really well.
It's not the same sort of squeezy action probably here in Palantir. I mean, the percent short is about 7%, Karen. So not a a GameStop playbook, but certainly that could be a factor too.
Right. Well, actually, just as we're talking, the stock's now $24.75. So maybe it has bottomed. I think it's sort of interesting. I mean, it has come a long way down. It is nowhere even remotely close to approaching anything like cheap, but I mean, the growth story is clearly there. This one is the most interesting to me of all the ones that have sort of gotten crushed. And just one thing I want to add about your question to Justin about, is the chatter indicative? His point about most of them being bullish, to me, would be. That's sort of interesting, because if most of the activity is bullish, then that would be bullish for the stock.
Yeah. Grasso?
Yeah, when you look at Palantir, you have to look at the government contracts, as Justin said. It's facing a $610 million in revenue there, and I think that will increase dramatically. So we've touched on it as far as the technicals, as far as the Reddit angle, but I do believe they have a backlog and an increasing backlog of government contracts and potential. The analytics that they provide are going to be huge for the government, especially for President Biden's administration. They're going to lean on them a lot. I do believe that the stock can run for fundamental reasons as well as technical. It
is really interesting, Tim, to see all of these firms now realize or recognize that social media can actually have an impact on stock action. We had the investment sciences guy from Barclays the other day who looked at social media. Yeah. This guy, I talked to somebody from this firm called PyQ, which tracked the bot and social media, sort of the fake activity that could be harnessed to help drive stock action as well. I mean, this seems to be more of a force these days.
Look, how you get an edge in the hedge fund world on intelligence is very different today than it was 20 or 40 years ago. And I think it's very clear, understanding where some of these momentum forces are at work, especially if you are short a name. That's kind of been proven obvious, but on the long side. And look, ultimately, money managers are really paid to have stocks move higher. We like to combine it with great fundamentals, but I think ultimately, I think there will be much less focus on this wave of Reddit dynamics, but because I think the presumption here is behind all this is a wave of liquidity that is driven by forces, including the Fed. But I think there's no question that some of the smartest and I think the funds with the most resources, and maybe you don't need those kinds of resources anymore, are using data, big data, using momentum, and these are all ways to pick stocks.
Yep. Palantir, by the way, up about 6% right now.